This car has a single traction rear end, meaning that if you leave one wheel on the ground and you take one wheel off the ground in this rear end, then one wheel will spin. The wheel on the ground will not. If that happens, I've been having a vibration from somewhere on this car, and it could be a back wheel. A good way to find out is to spin that wheel. And a good way to spin that wheel is to jack it up, like I've done. Get one wheel off the ground, like I've done. And then put her in gear, wind her up to about 60 miles an hour, which is where she vibrates, and we'll see if that tire vibrates. Open the door. Felt like a vibration to me. Let me jack it up 2 more notches because I thought you might could hear the sound of maybe the tire touching the ground. It could be an out of round tire, or it could be an out of round wheel. But I'm going to try to get her spinning and get out of the car and look at it. That's why I want to jack it up 2 more jacks. Okay. I'm pretty sure you can see that. Okay. So that's where my problem is right there. Another thing to think about is this vibration happening in the wheel or the tire? In other words, is it the tire that's not round, or is it the wheel? So I'm thinking it's the wheel, not the tire. And one of the things I've done from time to time is I've taken these off and put them back on and really studied on how they go on there, because I believe with these types of wheels where they have these elongated holes, sometimes you can get them on there and not have them be properly located. Okay, this is the same thing, turning without the wheel on it. Now I wouldn't say that that's perfectly straight. I'd say there is some movement in that. And this noise I hear in there, that don't sound good either. Of course, that could be the drum scrubbing up against the shoe. I'm gonna turn this off and look a little deeper here. So I'm not sure what I'm looking at is giving me an accurate view. You can tell by looking at this that this would show some vibration if it's sitting on there not completely down snug. The only thing that's keeping this from coming off is the brake shoes. What happens on these is as the brake shoe expands, this is a flat round surface in here, and the brake shoe rubs against that, and it will wear kind of like a notch into that, so that it makes it hard to get these off, because the metal will be worn down where the brake shoes are, and it's hard to get them over that. I can reach back in there and loosen that, but I don't want to do that until I have something else holding the car up a little more securely. So I'm probably going to want to put something underneath the car to hold it up while I do that. I'm pretty sure that noise I was hearing was these things rubbing against the brakes. This could be a case of, and I could save myself a lot of work by just putting that wheel back on here and placing it carefully and bolting it down good and snug and making sure all the bolts are doing what they're supposed to do, which is kind of what I've done with these kind of wheels before, because they have those notches in them. Sometimes how you put them on can make a difference. There also could be a difference made in the bolts and the nuts. Just something I could study on before I take that shoe off of there and do all the things I'm talking about doing, jacking that up and everything. Let's see if we can get this placed on here in a better way. Now I do see some wear inside these wheels. See right there where that edge is worn a little. I don't know why that nut is on there. That's obviously not an exact match. I've got other nuts that are better than this, and I think I'm going to go get in my box of nuts and get some better ones to put on there. I'll be right back. So you can see that this wheel is on here. I put new lug nuts all the way around, and they're all pretty much screwed all the way in to where they're touching, but there's still some play in that. You see that? Now when I tighten these down, I need to tighten it down in such a way that I get the play out of it, but also that I don't tighten it down. Like if I just screwed one side down hard, and the other side didn't tighten hard, then this wheel would run crooked, like sort of like what it was doing. So the trick here is really to get these things screwed on here kind of with the right kind of pressure, and to do that I'm going to use a hand wrench instead of this power wrench. I have got them snugged on, but I'm going to go get me just a regular old hand ratchet wrench, and I'm going to work around them carefully and tighten them a little at a time, and then we're going to spin them again and see if that does the trick. I'm using a pretty small little wrench here. I don't want to put a lot of pressure on these all at once. And what I might do is use my screwdriver and put under here and prise up on the wheel a little bit as we go. But see, I can raise that. Don't you look? I can see how much I can move that just with that screwdriver. You see it moving right there. So that's what I'm more or less working against, is to get that movement evened out as I tighten these things up. Maybe the best way is to see, I'm lifting that wheel there now as I'm tightening it, but I'm tightening it with this wrench, so I'm not getting an awful lot of pressure on it. Now I'm going to turn it to here. I'll try again. I'm going to try to see if I can lift that wheel. Now they're all a little snug, but I'm going to crank the engine and we're going to turn it. We're going to put it in gear again, and we're going to watch it turn and see how it looks. Okay, so she still has some play in it. And to be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure what's the best way. You know, it would be nice if I was able to find the low side, and something that might work would be like if I put a block of wood down here, it would stay sitting right there, and I could run a screwdriver I guess what I'm trying to say is if I could find the low side, I'm trying to think what's the best way to do that. Now, this is pretty, I don't know what the word is, but you see this little needle point there? If I find a place where this needle point rises, now see it's below the line of that wheel. I can tell a difference. I'm going to get a piece of something to mark with so I can find a place to call my center point there. So I'm going to use this piece of this is the name for this stuff. It's stuff you use to mark metal with when you're welding. Soapstone, a piece of soapstone. And I made a mark here. So my pin point, and I need to move this back so it's not gonna be hit by the wheel. My pin point is right there. So I'm gonna put you over here. And I'm going to turn that tire. Now right now, that pinpoint is up above that, right there. Give me something to lean on so I can look at that. If I had a ton of money, the easier thing to do would be to go out and buy me some different wheels. But I always liked these wheels. I always like these Cragars, and this might be why you can buy them nowadays in places, is because they're kind of a pain in the neck to get right. And that's a high place right there. And that's a low place right there. So let's take a look. I want to see where the low place is and mark it. Actually, it's right on this. There's a little thing that says there's some writing on the tire right here, but that's the low place, as far as I can tell. Here goes Honey Baby. I might need a better pin. That's the high place. There. That's the low place. So I'm going to try loosening the bolts and raising that low place. Alrighty, so how do we raise that? That's the best way to raise that. Well, maybe if I put the hammer under it here, and then I put the screwdriver on top of the hammer here. And raise it like this. Maybe I need a bigger bar. Alright, so I just saw this top bolt go up. I think the best way to do this would be with my wrench. I'm going to put this on here with my my gun. Now I'm going to show you. See how I can move that there? So I'm going to try moving that up. And tightening that top one. And tightening that bottom one. And I'm going to set this up again. And now I'm going to turn it again. Now that looks good. So I'm going to start the engine like I did before, put her in gear and see how she goes. Now, oh, by the way, before I do that, I'll tighten all the bolts, all the nuts. Now I will torque these down once I'm finished. So, So that did more to take the vibration out than anything else I've done. So what I'm going to do, I've got an air wrench in there. It packs a pretty good punch. I'm going to tighten all the bolts with that air wrench while it doesn't have the weight of the car on it. And then I'll let it down and torque them. Okay, let's start it up and run it one more time. That feels good and smooth. I'm pretty sure that one tire is good. That may have been the only tire that was vibrating. What I can do now is take her down the road, try that out, see how it feels. If I'm happy with it, we call it good enough. If I'm not happy with it, we can come back to this and check the other side. Okay, I'm gonna get y'all a fresh battery before we take off and get my wallet.